B.
What's up, O?
You're a user of substance.
Yeah, the Mary Jane.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got a question for you.
What's up?
I'm also a user of substance. I smoke cigarettes.
Yeah.
I know, it's gross, but it is what it is. You know, kind of, whatever. I'm not justifying my cigarette smoking.
No, what?
Yeah, so during COVID, have you found that your Mary Jane has been like a huge part of your life? Like a little part of your life?
It's for my anxiety. So my anxiety has been high.
Since COVID.
Yes, people are dying. Children are crying. It's serious.
The world is coming to an end.
Oh, dum dum dum.
With that said, let's get into it.
I got that dish. I got that. I got that dish. 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 I got that dish. I got that dish. That dish.
Hey y'all, it's Onika.
And it's your girl B.
And you are dishing with Dainty Dish. How you doing today, B?
I'm alright.
Let me guess, scratching and surviving?
Yeah, man, good times. You already know this. How about you?
I'm doing well.
Are you?
I'm doing well. I'm blessed.
I'm glad to hear.
I'm blessed.
You're blessed. Blessed and highly favored, as my mother would say.
Peaceful, protected, love, blessed, and highly favored, as I would say. That's my mantra that I start my mornings with. Right before I get on the road so I don't get into an accident on my 12-minute commute to work.
You're ridiculous. Like, get it together. Get it all the way together. Yeah, you heard it right out there,
guys. I have a 12-minute commute to work. Work's good. Can't really talk about it, but it's been a great educational week for me.
I'm glad.
I went to church this morning.
Did you?
I did. I went to church.
No.
I didn't give offering because I'm broke till Friday, but God forgive me.
That's nobody's business but you and the Lord's. Like, how dare you?
Honestly, I just to say because like I felt bad about it because for instance, we're kids, you give offering, whatever. But like I didn't do that this time, but it's not a problem. Jesus still loves me.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to say thank you for my many blessings, and so I popped by. I thought I'd just dip my toes in. I'm not jumping right in. I just thought I'd dip my toes in, see what Jesus had to say to my toes.
Enough.
And so I did that, and it, all in all, it's been a pretty spectacular week.
That's good. I'm glad to hear. Yeah. Hopefully next week my week's more spectacular than your week. So
there's only one way to go up.
Amen.
All the way up. Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up.
All the way up.
Yeah,
100%. I love what you tried to do there, but you're not.
I tried.
So
I couldn't, but I'm 37, so at the end of the day, I need to know my limitations.
Yes, know your limit and stay within it.
Yeah, but just the topic du jour.
What is the topic du jour today?
Substance use and COVID.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
all up in the business.
All up in the business of substance use and COVID. I have to stop calling it COVID and start calling it COVID-19. That's actually the correct term for what's going on. But I'm going to abbreviate it.
We've been in it so long. We're just abbreviate it. Like
COVID. COVID.
Like, no.
COVID. I'm going to start calling it COVID.
That makes it sound like it's cute. It's
like
not cute.
Cuddly, it's not.
People are dying.
And people with the substance use, it's getting out of hand. But
there's nothing else to do for some of these people, realistically.
That's a fair point. We're going to get into all that after Newsflash. So,
I like how you did that there.
My little flip.
The little
pop. I decided, because I usually go just out there in audience land, I usually go with a book. I'm a journal lover, so if anyone, my birthday, December 30th, if you want to send me a journal.
We don't have a P.O. box.
We don't have a P.O. box, but we can get one just so you can send me a journal. Whatever. I like presents. So I usually use the book, but then I thought to myself, I think I'm going to do some cue cards this time. And I got that idea from You Can't Ask Me That, which is a show that I'm on episode 6. It's on CBC Gem. We were supposed to put the link in.
Oh,
yeah. Put that in.
Yes.
They were asking me questions about, stupid questions about being bipolar. And I can say they were stupid because a lot of them were dumb. But it was funny. The answers were funny. So I decided to go with cue cards. So back to the newsflash.
Yes. What is the newsflash?
More seeking mental health and addiction support during COVID pandemic. This is a story coming out of Manitoba, Winnipeg specifically. Marion Cooper, who is the executive director of CMHA, was quoted to say there has been an increase of people reaching out for addiction services, making addiction related calls. We are certainly aware that the alcohol sales are the highest they've ever been in the province of Manitoba, and people are probably using alcohol in a way that is starting to create problems for them. So, yeah, that seems like a super obvious statement.
I was about to say, I'm like, okay, this is nothing new.
No, and
Just
people are
straight
also
facts.
calling concerned about their loved ones and their friends' substance use issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to, I think it's important to just like note that substance use and substance abuse
Two different things.
are two totally different things. I have this definition later on, but I'll give it now. It's my favorite, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM-5.
Don't bite your tongue.
So it's hard to say that 10 times fast.
No.
So that's the Bible of psychological disorders. And in the DSM-4, they actually categorized substance use in two different categories: substance abuse and substance dependence. One was lesser or milder. The abuse was milder than the dependence, but now they call it substance use disorder. But I want to make it clear that substance use and substance use disorder, aka addiction or abuse, they are not the same thing. I would categorize them as the same thing. I know in my previous life, I had a substance use disorder. I had my issues with marijuana, but substance use, which is what I think someone like you does, they're worried that it's becoming, and alcohol as well. With alcohol and different substances.
I was about to say, yeah, it's alcohol, okay.
Yeah, it's becoming like a big issue, specifically in Manitoba and everywhere, really.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they've done a study, so they've
done their
research.
They've done their research. Daniel,
The throws.
throw it.
Throws are just
Throw it. The throws are getting mean. Daniel DeCombe with the Addiction Foundation of Manitoba knows that we know that during times of stress, people do what they need to do to cope with their emotions. Fair enough.
But yep.
Like my cigarette use has increased exponentially. I went from a pack every 3 to 4 days to a pack basically a day. Pack and a half, pack every day and a half or so.
Yeah, because of the stress and everything going on.
Yeah, like
know.
it's my release. It's my, like I just can breathe, even though it's stopping me from breathing, and I have a really bad cough. And every time
it's a breathe of non-fresh air.
It's a breath of non-fresh air. I just need that in my life right now, and I keep trying to quit. And that's another thing. Like, this is a very challenging time. I know I'm kind of getting into the episode, but I just want to make this statement for people who currently have addiction issues, who previously had addiction issues, who are trying to quit, their substance use. There's an extreme lack of support right now for those goals that people might have. And that's really unfortunate because COVID's taken that away as well.
Yeah.
Right? So, Theresa Tam, the Canada's chief public health officer, noted in August. I love Theresa Tam. Miss Tam noted in August that Canada's opioid crisis was escalating at the same time as the COVID-19 pandemic, noting there was an increase in risk of overdose for people isolating themselves. Now, this seems like people don't think about people who have substance use disorder and have substance use issues.
No, most of those people that get left by the wayside for some of their family members
forgotten.
and stuff.
They're a forgotten population because people, they ignorantly feel they've done this to themselves. They why can't they stop?
I just made a post about this. Oh my gosh.
What did your post say?
Hold on.
Is your phone charged?
Enough.
Enough. Yeah.
No, keep going.
Yeah. So, people, I don't even know where I was. You interrupted me.
I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, I have to go in my archives and everything. Forgive me.
Oh gosh. Anyways,
It was just saying basically that like drugs and substances aren't the gateway. Like they're not gateways to problems. They're the root of a problem.
They're the symptom of a larger issue.
Yeah.
And thank you. That goes back to my point.
Mm-hmm.
They're the symptom of a larger issue, and then you pile on top of that COVID as well. You know, people are they're struggling to figure out how to deal with everything, and so they are using substances. And in regards to the opioid crisis escalating, according to Ms. Tam, I mean, that's a given. Mm-hmm. That's a given. It started right before the pandemic started. They started calling the opioid crisis the overdose crisis. We will get into the overdose/opioid crisis in a little bit.
So I found it. Do you want me to read it?
Yes,
now?
I do.
Okay. So it's cannabis isn't a gateway drug. Alcohol isn't a gateway drug. Nicotine isn't a gateway drug. And caffeine isn't a gateway drug. Trauma is the gateway. Childhood abuse is the gateway. Molestation is the gateway. Neglect is the gateway. Drug abuse, violent behavior, hypersexuality, and self-harm are often symptoms and not the cause of a much bigger issue. And it almost always stems from a childhood filled with trauma, absent parents, or an abusive family. But most people are too busy laughing at the homeless and the drug addicts to realize your own children could be in their shoes in 15 years. So, if you guys follow me, you would have seen that on my Instagram.
That month of bad. XO. We'll give it to you at the end of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So that was that story, just saying people are seeking more help for their addiction issues, but where's the help coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Who really knows? Medical news today, pandemic related concerns associated with substance use. Recent study led by the University of Houston, Texas, found that COVID-19 may be a risk factor for substance use, which could in turn lead to misuse in some people. And again, this goes back to people who are substance users that have the potential to become substance abusers and, you know, have come out of this pandemic with a full-on substance use disorder because, you know,
they've lost their job, they're home with their kids. It could be stressful, you know, like just there's a lot of aspects that start with occasional use being everyday use because you're home and what else is there to do, to then being like, I need this substance in my life to cope.
Like to cope with everything.
To cope, yeah.
The study focused on 3 groups. So those who didn't use substances at all, people that use substances before the pandemic, and people who were substance users during the pandemic. The substances in question were alcohol, cigarettes, cannabis, e-cigarettes, stimulants, opioids, and other drugs. They tested 160 people. They took part in this test, the study from between April and May of 2020. So this is a little bit older, but it's still new.
It was the beginning of
the pandemic. Survey included questions about their exposure and diagnosis. So their worry about exposure or being diagnosed. Fears and worries about the pandemic. There were questions about substance use, including when and how people use substances and why they did it. Almost 6% of the surveyors had positive COVID testing, as well as pre-existing. Almost 6% of the surveyors, so these are people who are using drugs, had positive COVID testing during this period, as well as pre-existing medical conditions. So not only could you get COVID, you actually have COVID, or you have a pre-existing condition that makes you worry about COVID, and you're wondering why people are doing drugs.
I'm still on the fact that 6% of these people that did this
160 people.
6% of them had COVID and were already doing
Houston, Texas. So we know what's going on in Texas.
Wow.
We're aware.
Wow.
Dad makes me watch CNN.
Yeah, so, CNN's played all day on the
all day.
Like, but I'm still on the fact that how were these people tested? How did they do this survey? Were they together?
No, I don't know. They didn't get into all them details, girl.
I'm just sorry.
All I
Just-
know is 6% of them were positive for COVID.
Well, as you said, rightfully so. Like, what would you expect after that alone?
Exactly.
Like their intake went highly up. Like, they had to be quarantined for 14 days.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what else are they doing?
Many reported changing substance use since pandemic started. So their usage increased since the pandemic started. Some reported using the following substances since the pandemic started. So alcohol, 8.8% of them used alcohol. Cigarettes, 6.9%. Stimulants, 5.6%. Opioids, 5.6%. Cannabis, 5%. E-cigarettes, 4.4%.
Imagine, and cannabis was illegal. Just
It's not legal in the States. Remember, this is coming out of Houston. So that 5%, they're endangering their freedom as well. All of them, everyone except for the cigarettes and the alcohol.
Why
they're
did you guys admit freedom.
to
that? You guys might have went to jail right after that. They might have searched you.
True. The study also found there was worry about the pandemic was associated with using substances to cope. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like, that's what people are doing right now. They're using the substances to cope with what is going on.
Yeah, it's
The
not
deaths,
everyday
the loss.
regular life, like going to work and dealing with work and coming home and dealing with your family and dealing with the kids and dealing with that. It's more than that. Are we going to be able to eat next week? Because
am I going to be alive next week?
Yeah, like can I go to the grocery store today?
Killing me just thinking about this. Like
you just look old today. I'm sorry.
It's
This girl got her blanket on. She's in her granny knit.
Listen,
sweater.
I got this from Bras and Panty Land, so I love my little blanket. I'm cold up in here. I think I left the window open. That's my bad.
You got aches and pains in your back.
I still got back pain, got neck pain. Oh gosh,
my neck, my back.
No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
We cut it off.
We cut it off right in time. And seed. So then, listen. If you don't laugh, you'll cry. That's all I have to say. 100%. 100%. I know this is a very serious topic that we're discussing right now, but at the end of the day, like, if I don't laugh about certain things, I would be rolled up in a ball on my bedroom floor in tears. Because what is going on, what's going on in this world is so tragic. It is so sad. It's unavoidable at this point, and that's the thing that's unfortunate. So, I usually at the end of these types of shows, I would come up with some kind of government solution or some type of positive message. But I'm just warning you, trigger warning, like that's not what's about to go down with this episode today. This is like it's not a hopeful topic, unfortunately. But the next story up, fentanyl and heroin use rise during the pandemic. This is from a place called painnewsnetwork.org. I
got shivers. Stop. Yeah. Oh my god.
Like painnewsnetwork.org. Never heard of him, but it was a good story. Pat Anson, he's the editor. The use of illicit fentanyl and heroin rose dramatically during the first 2 months of COVID-19 pandemic, according to a large new study by Quest Diagnostics. Misuse of hydrochloroquine, morphine, and some other opioid medication has increased. So the study adds that growing signs of study adds to growing signs that Americans are turning to potent illicit drugs to cope with the stress and economic disruption caused by the pandemic. Fentanyl is in everything. Like, I live in downtown Toronto for the most part, like not right now because of work. But one thing I learned from work and one thing I know to be true, people are now, this is why the opioid crisis has become the overdose crisis. It's because of fentanyl. This drug is 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine. I don't know if any of you have ever taken morphine or had to take an oxy or any kind of opioid. These are powerful, powerful, powerful drugs. And fentanyl is the worst of them. They call it an illicit drug because it's barely legal. Like, it's barely, and it's on the streets. Like,
I didn't even know that it was like
marijuana,
people were doing.
It's in cocaine. It's in heroin. It's in crystal meth.
I didn't even know people were doing it intentionally. I thought it was still slipping it in as an additive. And
people have started microdosing intentionally, but a smidgen too much, a crystal too much will send you over the edge. And then you got to quote that other article that we discussed earlier about people self-isolating and overdosing because they're isolated because they can't get to things like naloxone, which is what stops an overdose. You know, just by the way, guys, just so you're aware, naloxone kits, if you are a substance user, if you have an addiction issue, and when it comes to opioids, serious drugs, and you are in fear of overdosing, you need to go to your local pharmacy, specifically Shoppers Drug Mart. I'm aware of. I don't know if you live in Canada. Sorry, I had to mention that. You'll know Shoppers if you live in Canada. They give out free naloxone kits. This thing can save your life until you can get a 911 call in and get the ambulance to you. So I've been naloxone trained at work, my old job. It's pretty scary stuff. And also, if you are going to use, don't use alone. So I'm going to remind you that at the end of the show again. But Harvey Kaufman, MD, Senior Medical Director of Quest Diagnostics, said it's the social isolation, the depression, the anxiety, stress, job loss, the loss of health insurance, and the election. All these things that add to stress in our lives are driving people to increase use of alcohol at home, and in the case of this study, drug misuse.
I didn't even think about the election. I feel sorry for our American brethren and sistren.
It's going to be, when does this air? What day is it today? The 25th?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
What day is it, Wednesday?
The 28th, 3 days.
There's our cousins in the South. I wish you well. I wish you well.
May the odds forever be in your favor. Because it's coming. It's a coming.
It's a coming.
It's a coming.
So this study was a little larger than the other study that we discussed before. 872,000 urine drug tests compared samples taken before the pandemic to those taken between March 15th and March 14th.
Who were the people being
872,000 people who had urine drug tests that were noted to be on drugs.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
They took that sample between March, their use, because these are people probably getting drug tested weekly.
Okay, yeah.
So from March to May 2020. So the sample largely came back that people hadn't increased their usage necessarily, but they were using more opioids. Like the types of drugs they were using were different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not the drugs that they weren't supposed to be using, like just.
Yeah, so it said the 49%, there was a shift in 49% of them of the types of drugs they were using. So.
They're getting their kick some other next way?
Yeah, and drug positivity rates increased by 44%.
Wow.
So, for heroin, it was 35%, and for non-prescription fentanyl, it was 33%.
Did they tell you if these people went to jail?
No, because I think when you're a part of a study, you kind of get excluded from, like when you're a part of a medical study.
How many people
it's
did
anonymous,
you say?
Right? So they wouldn't even...
Just
800,
like
872,000, I think I said.
So 750,000, just over.
Yeah. So they could be pulling that information from anywhere in America, though. You have to think about it. They could be like people who are, if you're already getting drug tested, the likelihood is that you're probably in some kind of criminal situation. You're in a criminal situation, and they're basically telling you have to be a part of a focus group. So it happens.
Welcome to the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Yeah, you're in a focus group. We're not paying you for it. Oh, we'll definitely cite you in the article.
Yep.
Fentanyl is frequently found in urine samples that tested positive for amphetamines. I think that's methamphetamines. Benzodiazepines. That was methamphetamines was 89%. So 89% mixture of fentanyl and methamphetamines for these people. Benzodiazepines 48%, cocaine 34%, and opiates 39%.
So that's how much fentanyl is in all those.
No, that's how many of the population, of the 800-something thousand population, they were mixing their dose with fentanyl. So let's say they already were on cocaine. They're like, let me sprinkle a little fentanyl in this cocaine.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. They noted, Quest Diagnostic noticed that this problem had been going on for years, but it's been accelerated. The issue's been accelerated since the pandemic.
Like like, people, love your lives. Like, I mean, shoot, smoke weed and fly. Like, just like, you know, like, take a shot and chill out. Like, you know, like,
a shot for me.
Like, you know, just
relax.
relax.
But it's all, the thing is, it's substance to substance. Not really.
Substance is substance is substance. Is that what you were going to say?
I was about to say that, but it's not.
You're a
the
liar.
truth.
It's not the
It's
truth.
not the truth. It's
not the
different.
truth, because
it's highly different.
I smoke weed, but I'm not about to go dabble in some fentanyl. I'm not about to go try a little line of cocaine. Like, that's not what's happening. So
You're like COVID or no COVID.
Substance is not substance. My substance is substance ends at alcohol and marijuana. Like, so there's no.
I'll take a sip of wine.
Like, that's
And then I'll put the cup down.
Like,
Not a big alcohol girl.
like,
Anyways, so how does substance use disorder make people vulnerable to COVID? What do you think? How does substance use disorder, people with substance use disorder, how are they vulnerable when it comes to COVID?
because they're already in the midst of their abuse of a substance. So, like, what else is there to lean on and depend on when you're by yourself in a pandemic like this?
And it goes even deeper than that. All the respiratory issues. People who smoke, vape, use opioids, or have substance use disorders may especially be susceptible to infection by the virus that causes COVID-19 and associated complications because it's a direct challenge to their respiratory health. So I could say, I smoke cigarettes and it's fine, but
It's not.
I also had pneumonia, so
Yeah, like you
and
see,
I smoked through my pneumonia.
You push the barriers. You push the limits.
I full out got pneumonia.
You push the limits. You push
I
the
smoked
barriers.
through pneumonia.
Like, the anxiety alone of me thinking that I would have to stop smoking just so I could potentially have a better chance of not catching COVID.
But you already screwed.
Yeah, so, like,
you're already screwed.
Like, what's wrong with you?
I'm just gonna stop on March 14th and hope for the
Like,
best.
and hope for the best.
Like, hope for the best.
Yeah, no, like, sorry, my anxiety's too high for that.
Yeah, and it's also saying because there's impediments to administering care to people with substance use disorders because a lot of them are homeless and incarcerated. Like, how do you reach out to a population that doesn't trust authority or doctors? You know, it can be very, very challenging. So they're not necessarily getting the services that they need.
That's a fair question. I'm here stuck on it too. Like, you can't. That's why people consider those people to be the ones that file.
People.
Yeah, forgotten the people and file by the wayside. Like
it's sad. Oh goodness, this is a sad topic. I don't know why I chose this today, but
you always come out the woodworks. We go from happy to sad.
Happy to sad. I just
to
take you guys on a roller coaster of emotions. That's my
Too
job.
much.
It's
Like,
a roller
I'm telling you, the
coaster.
fentanyl, that gives me shivers. Like, I can't even think that people actually are poisoning their body with fentanyl.
They are.
I have kids.
Couple.
Like, I
It's
can't.
true. It's true.
I can't.
It's true. I got a couple stats and facts. So vaping and smoking. For those of us who vape and smoke and cigarettes and cannabis, there's a couple facts that I think that we all need to know.
I feel like I'm being schooled.
So vaping and smoking cigarettes weakens the lungs' regular defense and affects cardiovascular health. So this is what the doctor would tell you. Vaping and smoking cigarettes or carabana.
Whoa.
Where is my mind?
Where is your
what
mind?
about caravana? Oh my gosh. Anyways, where was I? Can't even see anymore. Cigarettes or cannabis, based on like adult observation, may put young people at risk of severe COVID infection. So adults are just basically telling you don't.
Of course, like they
'cause
would. Even
you
if,
already have weak immune systems. As
even
young
if COVID
people.
wasn't here, yeah, they would say the same thing. Like, don't.
And young people who smoke and vape are more prone to pneumonia and acute respiratory diseases.
Mm-hmm.
Noting, if you're going to vape or smoke, don't do it with other people, like with the other drugs, with drugs, because you're sharing. It's cross-contamination. So don't just vape on your own. Don't share your vapes. Don't share cigarettes.
Come on. Common
this
sense.
should be common sense, but people tend to do these things in groups and parcels. So they might think, oh, sharing a cigarette is like, that's no big deal, or oh, can I get a hit of your vape pen? There's no getting a hit of the vape pens or sharing cigarettes or any of that anymore. So make sure you're not doing that. So for alcohol, 21% of Canadians between the ages of 18 and 35 report their alcohol consumption has increased. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
18,
you can buy alcohol at the age of 19.
Yeah. Like, you said 18 to 35, so you're getting someone to buy it for you.
Or your parents have it in their house.
Yeah,
so that's...
Yeah, and you're in your parents' house because you're not at school. 20% of Canadians aged 35 to 54 have increased the amount of alcohol they drink while spending additional time at home. And only 10% of adults over the age of 54 report that they have been drinking more alcohol since the beginning of participating in social distancing.
They can't thin their blood. They can't thin their blood.
So only 10% of the 54
They can't thin their blood. You know?
And here are the reasons why. What do you think the reasons these increases have happened? You've already said one.
What? Job loss? Like stress?
Change schedule, 51%. Stress, 44%. Boredom, 49%.
Yeah, like
straight up boredom.
It's like cake because you have
bored
to
in
realize
the house and I'm in the house bored. Bored in the house and I'm in the house bored. Bored in the house, bored in the house bored. Bored in the house and I'm in the house bored.
Yeah,
right?
like it's just that's
that was the clean version for you guys.
Yeah, it's just
we're keeping it clean on the show these days.
You're so ridiculous. Honestly, like it's not hard to believe that boredom is one of the key like things like so high in percentage because. You know, after you're done work, Monday to Friday, like Friday's celebration night, you know, like it's ton up time. Saturday, like you're recovering from the Friday ton up, but you're bored if you're not going out. So you're just drinking, you know, you're just drinking smoking. Until Monday. Yeah. And then it's like, unless you hit parties, you know, back to back to back, like people do, but I don't understand.
But they're still at work for 8 hours a day.
But yeah, so like, imagine now you have the weekend every day. People have been asking for this for years. Like, I wish I didn't have to go to work. I wish I had the weekend.
No, like I miss work.
What did you think you were gonna do? Were you gonna read a book, Sally?
Were you gonna crochet?
Were you gonna crochet? Were you gonna pick up a trade? I hated the first couple of weeks of the pandemic when everyone swore to God they were a baker. Because that's actually what I do. To put food on my table. Why do I have to walk up into the grocery store and there's no flour? Because you decided you wanted to make pretzels and cupcakes with your children?
Oh my gosh.
Don't upset me. Boredom, I understand. I understand. If you weren't making cupcakes and if you weren't discovering how to knit and make pottery, you were drinking and smoking and carrying on and getting on bad. I understand.
That's what you were doing.
Like, I understand.
I read an article that said addiction is the disease of isolation. Because that's when you know you get into addictive behavior, when you're doing stuff on your own. Like,
you know, it's not social anymore.
It's not social.
It's not occasional. It's not social.
It's like as soon as you get home from work.
You know, like when you go on those dating apps or those things, they ask you like, do you smoke occasionally, socially,
daily,
often?
Yeah, often. Like when you have to do that self-survey.
It really tells you the truth. Like,
so it's a disease of isolation. But here's the caveat. Here's how COVID really effed everything up. And I can attest to this. I used to be in the rooms, and the rooms are the anonymous rooms. So NACAAA.
Can you talk about these rooms?
You could talk about. You could say what they are. I can't say what happens in the room.
Oh, okay.
Because that's
no
anonymous.
Sex in the champagne room.
Absolutely, positively.
No, you don't talk about that room.
You don't talk about the champagne room. What happens in the champagne room happens in the champagne room. So there's no champagne in this room because it's anonymous programs. But bringing it back.
Yeah.
So they're now a huge part of those anonymous programs is fellowship because it's a disease of isolation. So it's fellowship. Okay. It's coming together on a daily, multiple times a day. I knew
Okay.
back in the day, I knew people. Remember when I used to go?
Mm-hmm.
I would go daily, sometimes twice a day. I would be in those rooms.
Because when you're by yourself, you're alone with your thoughts.
You're alone
right?
with your thoughts, and you can easily talk your way in and out of drinking or smoking or whatever it is your illness is.
You need a lot of
your drug
willpower,
of
a
choice
little
is, right?
strength.
There's no, but when you have a community of people that know what you're going through, that could support you, you don't get this, and you have to physically leave your house. You know what I mean? You have to get the courage enough up to leave your house, to go into those rooms, to tell your story. Now they're asking you to do stuff online. You got to come into a group on a Zoom call.
Oh, no, that's.
You got to take telephone. Like,
if it helps certain people, but they have to realize it's not going to help everybody. What's for some is not for all. So
no, but what the thing I noticed the most in these rooms, though, a lot of these people are just getting back on their feet. A lot of these people are like, have lost everything. That's why they hit their rock bottoms.
Mm-hmm.
So they may not, very similar to the mental health.
They might not have that.
They might not have resources, computers, cell phones that could download Zoom that you could be on.
Yeah.
Some of them take buses and walk to their meetings, to get to their meetings daily at a certain time, to be there for their meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're telling them they got to get a computer, they got to have data, they got to have this, they got to have that, so to get support. And that's what I was saying earlier on in the show. Like, this is where it's going to really be a make or break situation, because people who have 10 years of sobriety are currently, and they've been going to meetings for 10 years, they've gotten their chips, they've gotten a sponsor, they've
like
done all of that work.
It's not going cold turkey on a drug now, it's going cold turkey on the thing that got you off the drug. So
yeah. So what's happening to those people, to that population? That's where my curiosity lies, because I remember being in those rooms. You know what I mean? I remember when I thought I had an issue and I felt I needed to participate in something where people would understand what I was going through. You know, so it's just thinking about all those faces that I've met, wondering, how are they doing right now?
How are they coping?
How are they coping? You know, it's sad. And on top of that, the methadone clinics too. People used to get, you know what a methadone clinic is?
I've heard of it, but I don't actually know what it is.
Methadone actually is the drug that people give addicts to get them off of other drugs.
Yeah,
it's a drug in itself. But I think it's
this is
mainly
what they give
meant
to
for
like
crack
kids
and
that
heroin,
are like, like they
or
give
they'll
it
even
to
give it to kids who have
babies,
like drug issues from their parents. Yeah. So methadone clinics are all around the city. They're just like safe injection sites. I want to talk about that too. I have a friend that works at a safe injection site, and those have been shut down. Right? It's the community aspect. It's using together, because if you're going to use, we're saying use together. Now we're isolating people. So you can't go to the methadone clinic to have group activity and sit there and take your meds and go through the high or the low or whatever it is as a group,
in a safe
as a collective, in a safe environment where you're supported. You not have to line up in a line where you could catch COVID from that lineup.
Yeah.
And you got to wait for your methadone, your pink liquid every day. I discovered it was pink in an article I read. So I didn't know that. I just discovered it. So yeah, like you got to line up, and it's still, there's not the same level of support, and you got to do it every single day, because you got to take methadone every single day. I believe. Don't quote me on that.
And I would imagine, just like any drug, you take it every day until you're weaned off of it officially. So unless they could be weaned off of it, it would be every day. Yeah.
So Dr. Marvin Spala, he was the one that was quoted to say, "We consider addiction is a disease of isolation. Now we're isolating all those people and expecting them to pick up the phone, get online, that sort of thing. And it may not work as well as we think."
Someone with common sense.
Exactly. Like it doesn't even, the whole point of group 12-step programs is the group fellowship aspect of it. So it's just...
And the thing that people have to realize about online, just like anything, like they've been teaching us for years, is online's not that safe for these things. Like, these are private meetings that used to be held in, places that, people couldn't eavesdrop and things like that. Zoom calls get hacked all the time. People pose as other people all the time on the internet. We teach children at a young age, don't trust strangers on the internet. Like, who do you think is gonna be the ones that are facing the bad side of this. At the end of the day, you might feel like you're helping these people, and you might feel like you're doing something rather than nothing, but your something's not enough. Because you need to look at the safety for these people. It's not just getting them help; it's also the safety. So, as well as you're saying fellowship, the safety aspect is
that's true. I didn't even think of that, actually. I'm not computer literate, apparently. Adding to the scarcity of treatment options, some inpatient and outpatient programs have been shut down because they're not COVID ready, as in they're not prepared to operate under the physical distancing rules. So they're not COVID ready. So they're like, okay, inpatient, outpatient. And that's what happened with my position where I used to work. They had to shut everything down. Inpatient, outpatient was shut down because they were just not ready for this pandemic. You know, so... And
the government I feel like the government kind of left it on a lot of people to kind of figure out how to not shut down. And if they couldn't do it by themselves without assistance, that's why they got, shut down. So, and it's not a main... They wouldn't consider it like a main issue to pick it back up, just like like you're saying with the methadone clinics and stuff like that. Like, it's not they only might have it, so you have to line up there because like these people need the medication. Like, if they don't have it, then they could possibly die, type of situation. Exactly. But like other things like that, it's like they'll survive. Like how you're saying, they don't need it. They don't need boundary settings. They don't need public speaking. They can figure it out. Yeah,
they don't need rap. They don't need any of that stuff. But it's weird because in a lot of these residential homes, group homes, shelters, detox centers, like their beds, they have roommates. Their beds are together. They share bathrooms. They share bedrooms. And a lot of the activities they do in groups. So they had to shut those down too. So they had to realize, people are at risk of transmitting COVID. So they shut it down. They shut it down. But my final thoughts, I guess, on this is, I don't know the solution. I mean, I can't tell you not to use substances. I've used substances in my past, so like, I'm not judging anyone who does use substances. That's not what I'm here for. We don't know your story. We don't know I've never walked a mile in your high heels, your moccasins, or your Doc Martens, so I don't know like what's going on with you and why you're doing what you're doing. But just do it safely is all I ask you. Do it safely, and if you're going to use as much as you have to self-isolate during this time. As I said earlier in the show, the naloxone kits are available. You can Google it up to find the closest location to you, Shoppers Drug Mart. And if you're going to use, like I said, use in at least one or two people with you. That's okay for the social distancing rules. And again, for kids and young people that might not know this, stop vaping together and smoking together. Like, stop
vaping, period. Like... Stop vaping, period. Like,
that's mom talk right there.
No, like, I'm
non-judgmental. So
I'm saying
I'm trying to start
kids.
vaping.
No, I'm just saying for kids and stuff, because like your lungs aren't even fully developed. Like, don't vape. Like,
yeah,
I'm not saying smoke a cigarette, but like, come on, like it's
don't do
it.
But again, like, if you're gonna be safe, be as safe as possible. B, did you have any final thoughts?
No, not really. Like, stop the fentanyl, people. Like, it's disturbing. Like, I thought fentanyl was just getting snuck into people's drugs, and like it was like,
you learned a lot today.
Thing.
Huh?
Like, no, like if you guys are really out here looking for like, can I get a hit of fentanyl? Like, you guys are on some
bull,
some next ish, everything here in between. Like, that don't make no sense. Like, how are you risking your life for a little high?
Listen, don't trip. Judge. Like, you don't know what these people go
I'm
through.
not judging. No, I'm just saying. I'm like,
but
like, there's so many other drugs. That's what I mean. Like, there's so many other drugs. There's so many other drugs.
We don't need no new drugs.
Like,
that wasn't grammatically correct, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
there's no need for new drugs. So
like,
let's cut that out for sure.
Like, weigh your pros and cons, people. Like, love your life, live your life. If you want to
live it and love
if you want to get high and do those things, like, do it accordingly with things that don't have a very high percentage of killing you. Know your limit and stay within it.
There we go. There we go. With that, we're gonna end the show.
Yeah. So
if you want to get a hold of us, just to tell us how substance use and COVID has really affected your lives out there, how
you're coping,
how you're doing, just shoot us an email, send us an email and let us know what you're up to and how you're dealing with this new normal. B, let them know how they can reach us.
Yeah, so you guys can get a hold of us by email at dysh@daintydysh.com. So that's dysh at dainty, daintydysh.com. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts,
Give us 5, which is 5.
and if you're listening to us on any other streaming service, thank you so very much. Like, share, and subscribe us. And if you'd like to get a hold of all of us, you can get a hold of all of us on our Instagram, Dainty Dish Podcast. So that's DAINTYDYSH PODCAST. And if you want to get a hold of us individually, my Instagram is thatmotherbadxo. So that's THATMUVABADXO. And if you want to get a hold of Onika, hers is
Best of Onika. That's BESTOFONIKA.
And if you'd like to get a hold of Elle, his is
It's Elo.Elo. That's ITS.ELLO.
perfect. And I think that's everything, right?
All right. Like I said, an ex-boyfriend once said this to me at the end of a email that he sent to let me know that he paid the parking ticket that he got on my car. Exact words: "Be safe!" ! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! All right, guys. Do you remember that? Oh, be safe! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark!
That was a
exclamation
quote
mark.
for years.
Del, that one was for you, bro.
Oh my
All
Lord.
right. With that said, I hope you guys have yourselves a very, very, very happy